What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Soul Hoops podcast. My name is Jeffrey, and I'm joined, as always, by Ryan and Matthias. We are back today. We're going to be talking some offseason basketball. We're going to go through all 30 teams, big additions, subtractions, all that kind of stuff for all teams, including the draft picks, because we didn't talk about the draft. But before we get into any of that, Ryan, Matthias, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm in a good mood.
Me too.
I got a little haircut earlier. Nothing too crazy, but just I needed a trim because
Same.
it was getting really bad. Working Minnesota summers are pretty good. The weather's been nice lately. Most days, like high 70s. It's been chill. I'm looking forward to talking some basketball. As always, we have a lot to get into, so I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I'm feeling about the same. I'm doing well. Just kind of been working, hanging out. I go back to Pullman in a couple weeks, so just kind of trying to maximize my time here. Gonna be making my way down to Summer League actually this weekend.
I wanted to be
so fun.
I wanted to go so bad. I fly for free through Southwest. So I was thinking, like, if I have a day off during Summer League, I might just catch a day flight down there. Just go for the games that are going on that day and just head back. But I don't have my work schedule for that week. I forgot to request off. So
yeah,
it's brutal. No, but it's gonna be hot. So
I saw a thing that was like, it was like gonna be the hottest week in like the history of the Valley or something next week or so.
No.
Yeah.
Not gonna be outside or on the strip at all.
Yeah, no. Everyone that I know that goes to visit Vegas in the summertime, they're like, don't walk anywhere if you're not used to that heat. They're like, Uber to the front door of wherever you're going and just get in that AC immediately because it's just so horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to talk some basketball as well. Haven't been able to talk. I've been co-hosting some Twitter Spaces for Bucks Twitter recently, so that's been fun. Talking free agency and draft and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's been fun, but nothing beats the podcast with the boys. So
yeah,
glad to be back.
Facts.
All right, so I think we're just gonna run down the list here. The alphabetical list of the free agency and moves tracker on NBA.com. We'll start off with the Atlanta Hawks then. They did not re-sign anyone. But they departures. AJ Griffin was traded to the Rockets for a second-round pick on draft day. And DeJounte Murray was traded to the Pelicans for Dyson Daniels, EJ Liddell, Larry Nance Jr., and I think Cody Zeller got officially added to that trade, I think, to create a roster spot.
Yep.
And I think, was it 2 firsts? I don't remember what the original.
I think a first and a swap, maybe.
Yeah, first and a swap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really have been a fan. Like DeJounte Murray to the Pelicans has been something that I've talked about before. I think we've talked about it on the podcast last trade deadline. Really good fit. Another guy, like, his defense is not as what it was when he was an all-defensive player, all-star caliber player in San Antonio, but he's still an above average defender. And he can create. He'll be the first point guard that they've had since Lonzo, and even Lonzo wasn't what Lonzo was when, like, in Chicago when he was with them. That's been an actual playmaker and offensive threat of any kind, really, like in any manner. Recently, they've just been kind of throwing out these glue guy defensive ones as a starting point guard, like rotating in like Jose Alvarado, Dyson Daniels, who I do like. He's an excellent defender. But and a playmaker, but can't score the basketball at all. So, getting a guy who's an actual offensive threat to be able to run that offense is something that I think was needed. And I think that this is a great buy low candidate because you traded pretty much nothing for him.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, I don't want to go too much into the Pelicans side yet.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. But for the Hawks, I think they got good value in return for DeJounte. Obviously, DeJounte's trade value right now is not what it was 2 years ago. And
not at all.
Right. And I think they just I think just accepting that and moving on, because they couldn't run this back with both of them, because in 2 years together, Trae and DeJounte have had a negative net rating while on the court. Can't have that happen. That's really bad. They needed to move on from one of them. I just didn't buy the fact that they were ready to trade Trae Young. I don't think they aren't ready to do that yet. So DeJounte going is not too surprising. I think getting back Dyson Daniels is a good pickup, especially. I think they're starting to realize that surrounding Trae with lengthy wings that can play defense is kind of the path forward, which is a good vision for the team. Drafting Arisa Shea, I like Arisa Shea's fit with them. That value at number 1 is a bit questionable, obviously, but like whose value at 1 wouldn't have been questionable in this draft?
I think people got a little bit too wrapped up in Alex Sarr as the number 1 pick because of the potential as like a 7-1 movable piece. But realistically, I mean, we did a video about Alex Sarr, watch this film. The offense is really, really, really rough. And the defense is good, but he's not coming in as an All-NBA defender, right off the bat. He doesn't want to play the 5, apparently. He wants to be a power forward. I understand. I don't know.
He kind of I feel like he's a less defensive, impactful Mobley coming into the league is kind of what I feel. Yeah. You know what I mean? If we're going to compare to someone that a lot of people know. But something I've said a lot about Sarr was he hasn't put the pen to the paper yet. Like, he has all this potential and this talent that he can showcase at times, but he's never really put it together. Yeah. And Arisa Shea had stretches, and he had one of his best stretches in the playoffs that was recent at the time. So it's like he had stretches where he looked great, and offensively and defensively, he doesn't have a lot to really put together. Yeah. So he's someone that can come in and play off a Trae almost immediately. And obviously he's a rookie, so he's going to have some limps and stumbles. But when looking at like his positioning, and he plays off ball really, really well. That's one thing we really harped on when we watched his film, is that he always was making good reads off of closeouts and off ball screens. Mm-hmm. And like, that's so valuable with Trae. And I think this also shows that they still value Capella and Double O.
Yeah, I saw a report today, I think, that said that they had no interest in moving off either of their centers in the DeJounte Murray trade, even if it got them back more assets.
Yeah.
Which it makes sense to me. I mean, I think I said after watching Sarr, I said if Atlanta takes him, I don't think they're going to – I think we talked about it on the podcast too. I said I don't think that you can trade Capella right away because I think it leaves a huge void in your defense with rebounding, and it's going to create an even bigger problem because he's not a good rebounder and he doesn't create rebounding opportunities like other guys who aren't good rebounders, but they still create rebounding for others. So that's something that I was like, I don't know if you're really going to be able to play him as a full-time 5 right away.
Yeah. And I talking about Arisa Shea a little more, like if he learns how to put the ball on the deck, he can go from his Harrison Barnes comparisons to like a Chris Middleton type player. And I truly believe like that's Chris Middleton's probably his ceiling. Yeah. And I can't think of a better shooting guard, small forward that you'd want next to a Trae Young type player.
Yeah. Especially because he's more athletic than Chris ever was.
Yeah. And you don't have to worry about, again, the bigs. You have Jalen Johnson as well to have room. And I, like we said, Ryan, I really agree with the Dyson Daniels. I think he's going to be really valuable next to Trae and in that system.
I mean, I don't love DeJounte will help the Pelicans for sure. I don't want to get too much into that right now, but giving up Dyson Daniels to me was a little bit like, I think he had a really underrated second season, or third season, or whatever season he's in. And, I think Atlanta's a place where he can really thrive. He could start next to Trae Young this season, honestly. Like, I'm thinking about a roster for them, like Trae, Dyson, Arisa Shea, Jalen Johnson, and Clint. Like, I have made the mistake of falling for the Hawks. And like last year, I thought they were going to be like a top 5 seed. Obviously didn't happen. But like, I think that's a nice starting 5 that that doesn't have as many weaknesses as I think, you know, their roster the last 2 years. And I don't know. Atlanta's in a tough spot. Like it sucks that they're going to be like the 9th seed or 10th seed probably again in a weaker Eastern Conference. But yeah, I think for what they could control, I think this offseason was overall like fine for Atlanta.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think you get a upgrade, and I think this pushes down some guys that you were relying on down the depth chart a little bit more to be even more complementary than you already were asking them to be, and just create a more balanced roster, in my opinion. And I think Richeche coming in as the replacement for DeJounte Murray just fits what Trae Young is as a player more than DeJounte did, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so Boston is the next team up on the list. I don't really think there's much to say. Won the championship, re-signed everybody or extended everybody this offseason. They didn't lose anyone off the roster. They drafted Baylor Shireman, who fits exactly what they want. Someone that's going to shoot threes. I keep seeing him talking about Celtics accounts talking about, or just people talking about him being a 3-and-D player. He's not a deep. There's no defense there. He's just a 3. There's nothing. I don't really think he's giving you a 2-way ceiling, to be honest. But shout out to the Celtics. I mean, being that dominant and returning everyone is very hard to do.
Yeah, I have nothing to add.
Sure. I mean, yeah, the biggest thing for them was getting everybody back, and after that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, Brooklyn Nets. Big fan of their offseason, to be honest. So re-signed Nick Claxton to a 4-year, $100 million deal. I think it's a slight overpay, but I think it's better than you have Claxton and try to see if he'll get better than not have Claxton. And then they traded Mikal Bridges to the Knicks. And in that trade, they received Bojan Bogdanovic, Mamadi Diakite, which is Bucks legend, Shake Milton, 4 unprotected picks, a top 4 protected pick from the Bucks, which that will convey. I'm going to assume that will not be the Bucks will not be a bottom 5 team next year, and then a pick swap in 2028. As well as a 2nd-round pick in 2025. And the Knicks got Mikal Bridges, Keita Bates-Diop, a 2026 2nd-round pick, and the draft rights to Juan Pablo Valle. So, yeah, I think that's an absolute haul for the player that Mikal Bridges is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did not think they were going to get this much in return for Bridges, and they're entering rebuild mode, which I think it's what we wanted them to do. If you look at the return they got for Kevin Durant overall, if you include the return for Mikal, it's like what 9, 10, 11 first-round picks. Like, the Sun. Like, I think they're well positioned, and we weren't saying that a few months ago. We were saying how they were one of the worst positioned teams for the future. But I think getting the haul they got from Mikal and making that trade with Houston to get back their own 2025 first-round pick, it puts them in a good position to tank this year and see who you can get at the top of next year's draft, which is supposed to be really strong with Cooper Flagg. Obviously, that's the big prize, but you can get a Dylan Harper, an Ace Bailey. That AJ guy who plays for Duke. Like, there are some really good talent at the top of next year's drafts.
Is that guard that's going to Baylor plays for the Bahamas? Is he also is he a freshman next year, I believe?
I think so.
Yeah, I think
he is going to be an insane talent.
Yeah.
Because he's doing it against grown men already, and that's impressive. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I don't want to butcher it, but let me look it up.
But they're well set up now, and I think they could still make moves. I'm surprised Cam Johnson hasn't been moved already. I think he still could get moved. Nick Claxton, re-signing him to that deal. I'm positive on that deal. I've always been high on Claxton, and like keeping Claxton on the team is not going to ruin your tank job, right? He's not going to take you out of the highest odds for the number 1 pick, right?
Yeah,
like, and I think keeping him around, like, he wants to be in Brooklyn, and he's a guy that, if he stays like long enough, he'll still be there when the team is hopefully a little bit more competitive again. So I like the Claxton signing for them, and overall, just glad Brooklyn is just letting Bridges go.
Yeah,
they got a really nice return for him. So I think things are looking better in Brooklyn.
And being able to flip some of the rights to swap Phoenix's picks later in the future for their first round swap next year from Houston is very big for them. Obviously, being able to just do it fully tank, which is like, honestly, like, that's why I didn't really blame them for trying to be a middling team this last year, because they didn't have their picks, and their pick ended up as the 3rd overall pick anyways, even though they were like the 11th worst team, which really sucks. That really sucks. But I mean, you feel a little bit better about it because it's like you're not drafting anyone at the top of that draft that's going to be like a difference maker prospect, like a franchise changing prospect, probably.
I still think they should have gotten involved in the draft somehow. Like,
yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
like the fact, like, they're entering a rebuild and they have to look forward to next draft, but they don't have any rookies that they're really bringing in for next season. So,
well, they do have a couple of young guys that they drafted last year that didn't really get to play because of how top heavy the roster was with them trying to compete because they didn't have their picks.
Yeah.
So I think they're still in a good position there.
For sure.
All right. Next team is the Charlotte Hornets. Re-signed Miles Bridges, 3-year, $75 million deal. They got Josh Green in a sign trade with the Mavs, and they got Reggie Jackson from the Nuggets for, I think, 3 second-round picks.
They also drafted Tejan Salon, which I so thankful for, because if he was still on the board at 8, San Antonio would have picked him, and we don't get Rob.
So?
I really do think that if Salon was there at 8, the Spurs take him. I think the reason the Spurs traded their pick at 8 is because they were hoping Salon would be there, and when Charlotte took a bit of a reach on him, I think they just didn't really want anybody else. So I'm very, very thankful that they took Salon.
Which Salon is an interesting prospect. Everyone was questioning their draft choice last year as well, and that turned out to be the correct choice so far. So
don't have to tell me about it.
And then they waived Davis Bertans, Bryce McGowan's, and Poku. All got waived. So I think they're going in the right direction to an extent. I think they're gathering assets. Just those middling assets that people don't really want, even though they're just getting extra second round picks and stuff. Those can still be used for, to get players at points. And I really like them getting Josh Green. I feel like that was just like taking a flyer on a guy who's been good, but hasn't really been great for his expectation of what people thought he might be able to become at when he was drafted as in the late first. So yeah, I mean, just get another guy and get some second round picks, and hopefully another guys take a step, and LaMelo's healthy this year, and you can fight for a play-in spot probably.
Yeah. I think they're also just going surround their guard by like athletic wing types, and
which is a good idea.
That's the prototype. Brandon Miller he's a really lengthy 2-3. You bring in Josh Green that can play multiple forward positions. Salon, theoretically, if he develops, he can basically just be Josh Green on steroids.
Yeah.
And then obviously, I mean, you have Bridges as well that I would love for them to replace, but overall, the play style is exactly what you need next to LaMelo, and they seem to be bringing guys that can shoot or at least project to shoot, which is very important when you're playing with a playmaker like that.
Yeah.
And I like the road that they're on.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and they just real quick, they hired Charles Lee as their new head coach.
Goated coach.
I think it's gonna be really good for them. Like the video clips I'm seeing from their summer practices that they're holding, like it's just like, I mean, it's practice clips, but you can tell how much like more, receptive and responsive the players are to Charles Lee than they were with Clifford. Like, yeah. I think a new young coach in there is going to make a big difference, and I think they just got to hope LaMelo is healthy. Also because we've seen when LaMelo is healthy for like the majority of the season, they can be a play-in team, right? Like, this is a good team. This is a talent. Like, I don't know about good team, but like compared to what most people think about them, they're like a good team. I think they could do some things this season, as long as they're healthy.
Yeah, for sure.
Agreed.
Next team, Chicago Bulls, finally picking a direction. Re-signed Patrick Williams, 5-year deal. I think it's 5 years, 90, which I think is a pretty good deal for what Patrick Williams, I think, could be, especially now that there's all these other guys are going to be off the roster.
Yeah.
They got Chris Duarte in a sign and trade with the Kings. They got Josh Giddey from a trade with the Thunder, and they signed Jalen Smith to a 3-year, $21 million deal, I think. 3 years, 20 something, I think. And obviously they traded Caruso, DeMar, and then Andre Drummond went to the Sixers. So how are you feeling about the Bulls?
I mean,
they did the right thing. Good job, but they're gonna suck.
2 years too late.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
but they got a hometown kid in the draft. So
I really like the Matas pick.
They give someone to root for, which will sell tickets, and I think he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah,
they kept Patrick. They kept obviously their young guys. So I don't know. I don't really know what else to say than I'm glad they made the right decision and didn't keep this whole core together for no reason.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's they did the right thing, but also it's like you don't feel good about it because they completely mishandled their assets in DeMar, in Caruso, in LaVine, who's still on the roster, and there's zero market for LaVine. Like, I'd be pretty surprised if he ends up getting moved, just because I don't know what team is trying to trade for him in that contract right now.
Yeah, I heard the Clippers possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the Bulls are obviously in a rough spot, and
send him to the Pistons like you said you would.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel great about their offseason regardless, just because like I don't think there's anything they could have done that would make me feel that good about it. Like, I think something they had going for them was that they could they could attach Caruso to LaVine or to DeRozan to get like a bigger return, but they traded him for Josh Giddey, who I just don't see it. I don't care that he is still young and that, maybe OKC got too good too fast for his development. I just don't see it. I don't think that Giddey is the right choice for a guy they bring in, because he's going to have to get extended. And I think having Coby White on the ball was something they found last year that worked. I think Coby White really thrived getting the ball more. Ayo Dosunmu had a really nice season. Dalen Terry has made strides. Like, you're going to bring in another guard that is going to need the ball and can't really do anything else. Like, I don't love that return. And that feels like it happened forever ago, but I just still got to say that I think that trade it's a really bad trade for Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I can't think of is that maybe they like that Coby is capable of being an off-ball shooter as well, but then it's like, because I don't think Coby is quite someone you want to do like be the primary guy the whole game, but maybe he can develop into that, because obviously he's taken a lot of strides these last couple years, and he might take another one. But that's kind of the only way I could justify the Giddey addition. Other than that, I don't get it. It's just trying to take a step into the rebuild and maybe use him as a tank commander.
Yeah, I guess so.
Use him as a tank commander, or maybe he pops, but
yeah,
I don't know what else, because it's like he just. And I know I always preach that development isn't linear, and Giddey had promise his rookie year, and he looked really good to start. So maybe he will, find his jumper, find his stride. But right now, it's not looking good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he has I don't like that whole like they got too good too fast excuse, because it's like you should be developing easier in a winning good basketball situation where you're still playing. It's not like he didn't play.
He played too much, honestly.
Literally, they probably would have won more games if he didn't play. They probably would have looked better in the playoffs if he just didn't touch the court.
Yeah.
If Cason Wallace took all of his minutes, we would have, and like that would have been perfect. Like if Cason Wallace and Isaiah Joe split his minutes instead, they would have been a better team.
They would have, but I also understand at the time investing in someone, because you guys have to remember at the draft, he was expected to be a project, and then he ended up being one of the most NBA ready prospects. But then all of a sudden, he just didn't improve. So it's like, that's when I say there are times when top prospects maybe hit a bump. Kobe White's actually a good example. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gravel road for a couple years, but got on a paved highway and he fucking took off. And that's something that could happen with Giddey as well. But I do agree that it's just, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit here, but I don't really believe what I'm saying. If I'm
no, I feel that. Well, Cleveland Cavaliers. Wow, what an exciting offseason they've had. Only thing listed is re-signed Donovan Mitchell 3-year extension, which is huge. I'm not saying it's not. And then they drafted Jalen Tyson. So, which I like Jalen Tyson actually a little bit off the bench. But that means they need to trade guys and try to reshape this roster a little bit. And they hired Kenny Atkinson as well, which I really like. Kenny Atkinson is much better than Bickerstaff, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, nothing too exciting. I mean, getting Donovan Mitchell under contract is big for them. Like, if he would have walked, like that would have just been disaster for them. But I don't know. It feels like they're like the 5th or 6th best team in the East right now, and they just didn't make any moves to get better. I mean, yeah, Jalen Tyson, good. Like I mean, he's cool. He'll help, I think, but I don't think that they really got that much better. And maybe Kenny Atkinson can make, he'll probably add something for sure. I don't think the team was really responding to Bickerstaff at the end there, but I still think the roster is just as weird of a fit as it was 2 years ago, and a lot of those problems haven't been addressed. I think you can hope that Darius Garland has kind of a return to form after a really weird season from him. They did have a lot of injuries, but it feels like they also played better while their guys were hurt. I don't know. It's weird what's going on in Cleveland, and I think I really was sure that Garland or Allen would have been moved this summer, but
yes, I thought Allen was gone.
Same,
especially after a lot of the messaging after the loss in the playoffs. It seemed like they were trying to scapegoat him, but they didn't.
Yeah. I don't really have much else to say except I feel like most other teams in the East got better and they didn't.
Yeah. I agree, and also I agree that Kenny Atkinson might be an upgrade, but I'm like, I still don't know if that's the personality for that team.
Yeah. I just don't know.
They need a little bit they need a douchebag that'll be a prick and get them going, because they're soft, and we see that a lot.
Yeah.
They don't have a high motor guy or anybody in the locker room that's going to get them going, so they're going to need a coach to do it, or nobody's going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I feel that. All right. Dallas Mavericks next up. Didn't re-sign anyone. Acquired Quentin Grimes from the Pistons. Signed Najee Marshall to a 3-year deal. Good contract. Good player. Underrated player. And then Klay Thompson joins via sign and trade. They traded away Josh Green, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Derek Jones Jr. Departed in to the Clippers via free agency. So and then they didn't have a draft pick. So how are we feeling about them? The Mavs.
I think they made good moves. Shooters around Luka and Kyrie is always good, and I think Klay is one of those guys where even though he's old, I think it's kind of like a buy low investment just for I think he could be perfect. In terms of fit, he's perfect for them. And it just matters if he has anything left in the tank or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do get worried about defensively with the starting rotation of Luka, Kyrie, Klay Thompson. I don't know who's going to start at the 4 for them.
PJ Washington,
and Derek Lively. I'm like, that's a lot of stress on Derek Lively and PJ Washington to clean up a lot on defense. So,
yeah,
interested to see how that goes, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think they probably
Klay will be the first sub every game.
Yeah, I think they aren't worse, but I don't think they're that much better after this season. I like the Klay move. Quentin Grimes, why not? Buy low on him. He's still got a lot of potential, in my opinion. Najee Marshall, I like it. The Derek Jones Jr. thing was weird with his agent, and that's I don't know.
Yeah,
that was really confusing to me. But
so what it is in the CBA, if you switch agents, you have to wait a few days before you start negotiating a contract again. So apparently they had a contract that was almost worked out. Then Derek Jones Jr. switched agencies to Clutch, and then they had to stop negotiations, and they were worried that there was something would come up, so they just signed Najee Marshall right away instead.
Yeah.
Which is really weird that you'd switch your agency to a day before free agency starts. So
yeah,
that probably means that the unofficial talks were going on, and he didn't like what he was hearing from his agent. Most likely, it was I need something better.
That's probably what happened.
Because free agency really starts about the second. Sometimes, literally in the middle of the last season, there's already times people are talking about where they're going to sign to behind closed doors. So
for sure. Okay. Denver Nuggets next up. Did not bring anyone back. Added Darius Saric on a 2-year deal for the mid-level taxpayer, $5 million a year. Lost KCP to the Magic and traded Reggie Jackson away. Drafted Day'Ron Holmes in the first round. Traded up to 22 for him. Also, interesting thing I saw today on draft night, it was reported that Jamal Murray and the Nuggets had agreed on a contract extension, for $200 million. Saw something today that said that there's actually been no contract agreed upon between the Nuggets and Jamal Murray, and that it might. Apparently, the Nuggets want to put stipulations into his contract regarding health, playing, and incentives instead of guaranteeing him the money up front.
Yeah,
makes
which
sense.
He is not a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
Which
also makes sense.
Yes, exactly. So I saw that in that same thing. I forgot who reported it, but that might cause some real problems between Jamal Murray and the Nuggets front office if they aren't able to get that done before the season. So how are you feeling about the Nuggets off season?
I mean, I don't think they got that better at all. Really, I like the Day'Ron Holmes pick, but Jokic is amazing. That core 3-4 plays really well together, but as we saw, you can't just rely on that. And I think their bench got a little worse. I think KCP was a great piece to have, and
Yeah.
I'm worried they're not being aggressive enough. And I know they just made an aggressive move at the later end of the first round, but I mean more like free agency, where I don't know. They feel almost stuck with the roster they have while everyone else is improving and building around their weaknesses.
Yeah, and like they did just win the championship, so I don't think there's not like a ton of pressure on them or anything, right? But
No.
like when you have a team that can so clearly win a championship, still like you got to do what you can to continue to compete, and
especially with a player that's as good as Jokic.
The player as good as Jokic, yeah, like they're gonna like as long as Jokic is in his prime, like and they have a half decent team around them, they're gonna be contenders to me. Like I just think that's
just how the NBA works.
That's just how the NBA works, right? And losing talent like losing KCP, there's not like that much they could have done really, but that sucks. And I feel like they weren't aggressive enough doing much else to kind of make up for that.
And I'm sick of seeing these quotes from their front office and stuff about these young guys that they keep drafting. Like Christian Braun is a good player for a bench depth piece. He's not as good as KCP.
No.
He's not as good as KCP on offense for sure. Like Jalen Pickett is not going to be your starting backup point guard.
And they're going to be relying
Has he played real minutes at NBA? Daron Holmes is going to be a rookie big man. Like, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to also have some problems.
He'll have some problems.
It's every rookie does.
And Julian Strother, who's a guy I like. I mean, he only played 50 games last year and is going into his second season. He doesn't have a lot of experience in the NBA either. And Saric is fine. Not a difference maker for you. Like, they've got Peyton Watson, too. Yeah, their bench is looking a little bit rough. That starting shooting guard position is looking rough. It's looking to be Christian Braun, but that's definitely a downgrade from what you're getting from KCP, who I thought had a shot at making all defense last year.
Yeah,
and it's just a winner too. I mean, yeah, not the best offseason from Denver.
Not at all. Yeah, I'm with the Nuggets fans who think that, or who are on the side of that. They're just letting talent walk because they're too comfortable with Jokic being able to just cover up these holes.
Yeah.
Which just isn't a good way to go about any sort of team building strategy. So, yeah, I mean, not much to really say there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that bench, the offense is looking a little nasty. So,
yeah,
but we'll see.
Heavily relying on the Jokic full bench minutes for Jokic to carry.
Yeah.
That can work in the regular season, but in the playoffs, like you can't do that in the West. I mean, other teams have gotten better, simply.
Yeah, for sure. Next team, Detroit Pistons. Re-signed Cade Cunningham. Re-signed Simone Fontecchio. They agreed to terms with Malik Beasley on a 1-year deal. They acquired Tim Hardaway Jr.
Tobias
Harris, Wendell Moore. And then they lost Quentin Grimes and James Wiseman. So I like what they're doing. They got a bunch of like second round picks and sign-in trades and for people to move around. But I really do like Tim Hardaway Jr. Not a great player. Like, to be honest, like he has a lot of problems. But acquiring Tim Hardaway Jr. and 3 second round picks as a salary dump and then giving up Quentin Grimes was not good for you last year. Is getting you get like a quality offensive player when he's playing well, and he'll be in non-pressure moments the entire season. Getting the guy like that in Tim Hardaway Jr., signing a shooter like Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, had problems in Philly being a third option or a second option at times when injuries popped up. Him going to Detroit to just provide some stability. That's a good pickup. Taking a flyer on Wendell Moore Jr., interesting, flyer, I guess. But getting shooting was probably their number one point of emphasis. It should have been. And they got Malik Beasley, who was a great 3-point shooter, though he does have problems, on defense and in the playoffs, but they will not be a playoff team. Tim Hardaway Jr. has problems, but he's still a quality shot creator and shooter. Tobias Harris is still a quality shooter for as a catch and shoot guy. Mm-hmm. So I personally think that they went about the offseason exactly how they should have. And then they hired JB Bickerstaff to be their coach, which is fine, I guess. I don't know.
Better than Monty.
Yeah, Monty did not want to coach basketball.
No.
That was very clear. So
yeah. Yep. And they also took the surprise of the draft and Ron Holland at 5.
They really do not give a damn about shooting, man.
No,
reject modern Indy.
They could have got Ron Holland at like 9 if they wanted to trade with Memphis. This is the thing I've been trying to think about. I don't understand why Detroit and Memphis didn't swap picks. Memphis could have gotten Klingon at 5. Detroit could have gotten their guy in Holland at 9 still, and they could have gotten more in return. Am I missing I don't know. I don't really know why that deal didn't happen.
Maybe
I guess you're only. I don't know.
There could have been the Blazers, maybe, or maybe Charlotte liked
maybe
Ron Holland as well, and they were like, "Oh,
yeah," but Charlotte was connected to Saloon the entire draft process.
I don't know. They were getting nitpicky on not wanting to give up a future first or a small contract player. You don't know what they were protective over.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But you know what? I like Ron Holland a lot. I was super high on Ron Holland personally. So
Same.
To see him go 5 was awesome. So
I agree because he was a top 5 talent. I think he's one of those players that got a label on him that really doesn't make sense. And
he's an Asar type, but he's way better on offense than Asar. Like he can actually create for himself.
He's a walking paint touch in the G League. He shot over 60% from at the rim as well. Efficient with both arms around the rim. Super athletic, graceful. And he got this label that he had no feel, which I think was a little unfair.
Yeah.
I think he struggled a little bit with his playmaking feel and making advanced reads and honestly sometimes medium level reads. But again, the G League's a little harder to.
And that was one of the worst development teams I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, they butchered the development of those teams. But and then also the harping on the 3-point stuff. I don't know if it's a thing with social media or not, but this has been something I've been thinking about a lot. And you get players like Giannis or Jokic even with their defense that people just discredit them. No, they can't be an all-time great. Or there are other people that will drop some players just because they can't shoot threes or just because they might not be a good rim protector. And it's well, if they're good at everything else and they produce, why are you harping on the one thing they can't do? They still produce. And I think that's kind of what happened with Ron Holland. And I think he's going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I think Ron Holland's going to be good. I saw a lot of Jaylen Brown comparisons of him coming out of high school, coming out of the draft, which makes sense. Jaylen Brown was also a guy who's not a good shooter, but he was very athletic and he could defend multiple positions. And you put him on a good development track, and he can develop that jump shot because that's just what teams do. And the Pistons hired the shooting coach from the Pelicans, who has fixed everyone's jump shot except Dyson Daniels.
Fred Vinson.
Yeah. So get him in there with them, and he's going to start shooting jumpers. I mean, that's a really, really, really good player.
There.
Yeah. I've seen plenty of guys develop jump shots later down the line.
Yeah, and one of the big things around him was I feel like everyone raved about his work ethic, and that he was kind of basketball obsessed, which is all right, that gives me confidence that he can learn to shoot a jump shot because that's the easiest thing to repeat. You know what I mean? You can improve shooting by yourself or even with one trainer, or you can do it with a whole team. It doesn't matter. There's so many ways to take shots. So it's if he's truly putting in the work outside of it, I have no reason he can't develop it, especially with the touch he's already shown.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Next team, Golden State Warriors. didn't resign anyone. Added Kyle Anderson a three-year deal. Buddy Hield on a 3-year deal. DeAnthony Melton 1-year deal. Lindy Waters III was acquired via trade. Waived Chris Paul, lost Dario Saric, and lost Klay Thompson.
Yeah, I like their offseason a little bit. I think, like, obviously Klay leaving on those terms it sucks. Just from a narrative, like Klay Thompson, like we all wanted to see him be a Warrior for life, right? And he should have been, right? Like he should play with Steph and Draymond for the rest of his career, but things didn't work out for a lot of reasons, and he's gone. But I think they did make good moves, kind of recovering from that. Like Buddy Hield is not Klay Thompson as a player, but Buddy Hield is a really damn good shooter who can, you can still use him in a lot of the same ways. Kyle Anderson, I think, is a perfect fit for that team. You can't really play him with Draymond, but like when Draymond isn't in the game, you can use Kyle Anderson the same way, right?
Yeah.
Good passer at the forward position. Just high feel for the game, plays defense. It's like just high IQ player. D'Anthony Melton, like he's also a good player who was good for Philadelphia the last 2 years, and then Memphis before that. I think they've done well, all things considered, just kind of keeping. They still have Steph, right, and then they've kind of found some good pieces to kind of surround him, and I don't know, like they're still kind of in the running for Markkanen. That's kind of lost a little bit of steam the last few days, but that's still a thing that could happen. If they pull off a trade for Markkanen, that makes everybody feel really good about their offseason. But yeah, I
just wonder what they'd give up for that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, true.
Because
apparently
I
it's
don't
like
know
a very
how much value they have.
It's like a very pick-heavy package, but they only have like 2 firsts and a swap or something like that. So I don't really, and they don't want to give up Kuminga.
Yeah, I don't really know what that would look like, but I don't know. Warriors, it's kind of they're like what they're weird to talk about. They're in a weird spot with this team because they still have Steph, who is on the back end of his prime. I think we can say that, and
he's still a top 10 player though.
Still a top 10 player and is still capable of putting on these game-winning performances every now and then, but the rest of the roster just isn't ready and they're not that great. And I don't know, especially in the West. I think if this team is higher than if this team is a top 6 seed, I'd be shocked. I think even if they were like 7th, I'd be pretty shocked. I think they're going to be kind of going for 8 through 11, which you don't feel great about.
I
have Steph, but
I have them as the 11th or 12th best team, and
they could be. If you told me that the Houston Rockets were better or the Spurs were better, I wouldn't be that surprised.
Well, let's think about it here. You got OKC still going to be as good as they were, probably even better. Timberwolves are going to be just as good, if not better. Denver's going to be just as good, probably, maybe a little worse, but they're still going to be good. The Mavericks are still going to be good. That's 4 teams. Let's think about. You think the Clippers are better than them?
Yeah.
Okay, that's 5 teams.
Lakers else? Probably.
Lakers are probably.
Healthy Grizz, man.
Healthy Grizz, that's 7. We got the Rockets could be better than them. The Kings probably could be better than them. I mean, that's 9 teams right there where you're like, yeah, I could definitely see them. And then you got teams like, the Spurs that are going to be coming up. You don't know what Wemby's going to look like next season, all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
I'm just worried that they might get lost behind. Pelicans are going to be better than them.
The Suns
Pelicans.
Suns
they're going to win their season games.
Yep, Suns will probably be better than them.
Yeah,
that's that's like the 11th seed probably.
Yeah,
but I think there's also wiggle room because the West is going to be so tough.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're a team that has enough.
I mean,
those games.
I genuinely think that the West standings are going to be situated by whatever team has the shortest, the least amount of injuries.
Best clutch percentage.
The 4 teams with the
numbers.
least amount of injuries are going to be the top 4 seeds, probably.
Yeah,
of those
that wouldn't surprise me.
Like, legitimately, I think every team is going to be between 45 to 55 wins, probably.
Yeah.
Just with Golden State, I think we talked about it with Chicago just a little bit, but they grossly mishandled their assets.
Yeah.
They got nothing out of James Wiseman. They got nothing out of Jordan Poole.
Mm-hmm.
They got nothing out of Chris Paul. I guess you got Chris Paul to Jordan Poole, but you had nothing out of him. So
they wait.
Once he broke his hand, it was out for over a third of the season. So did you really even get anything?
We're gonna look back and remember that as such a weird, Chris Paul in a Warriors jersey. It never looked right, and in a few years we're gonna look back and be like, that was disgusting.
Yeah.
And I think
Al Horford Sixers jersey vibes
ran into something trying to continue the dynasty. They were trying to play both the youth timeline and the veteran timeline, and that just never that rarely works out. The only time that's ever worked out is with the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, it's so hard to do that, and
they have the best player development coach of all time.
Yeah, they went from Duncan Robinson Duncan Robinson.
Tim Duncan.
Yes, Tim Duncan to Kawhi Leonard, and David Robinson, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's just something that I think, looking back at it, we're either going to be like, wow, they just picked wrong, and or they should have traded those picks for win now players. Because I think lengthening the dynasty to pure dominance for 4 more years, 2 to 4 more years, is a lot more important than trying, and a lot, honestly, easier to handle your assets than trying to play both sides of the development lottery. It's just weird.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, next team up in the list, Houston Rockets. Didn't really do much. Re-signed Aaron Holiday and acquired AJ Griffin via trade, and then drafted Reed Shepherd. Like Reed Shepherd's fit on the roster. I think he can slide in as the 1 or the 2. Elite shooter right off the bat. Good connective passer. He's just going to play basketball smart. Just going to play smart basketball,
Yeah. And I think you have this oversized point guard. Actually, we're thinking youth timeline, because I know they have Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks and all that, but in the long run, those guys probably aren't going to be there, You got Thompson, that's kind of like an oversized 1, and you have Reed that's kind of an undersized 2. But I think they are going to work really well together, and I think Reed's the perfect player to play off of him.
Yeah.
And also, I think he is capable of playing off of basically anybody. I don't really know what else to say other than it's like Reed Shepherd. His play style is kind of every 30 teams he'd fit on, because he shoots a 3 at a high clip, and like you said, is a good connective passer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were hating on it, saying low ceiling pick, but you already got your high ceiling guys. And I also think Reed Shepherd is a guy that can be a little bit more of a little bit more if he develops right. But
and they swung for the fences last offseason.
Exactly.
In the draft. Amen Thompson is the swing for the fences draft pick.
Exactly.
If he hits how he's supposed to hit, that is a grand slam type of pick. So taking someone that's a win now, who's really good and has very, very cohesive skill set with all of your players that you currently have on the roster, just perfect, to be honest. Indiana. Oh, you got anything else?
One more thing. Sorry, I was trying to think of a player comparison that I had for Reed, and I was going to say, where they end up, Fred VanVleet is someone I could see him kind of being that type of player. I know, efficiency-wise, they're a little different, and Fred came in as a defender, but I do think, play style-wise, I could see that Reed kind of developing into something like that. Best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Pacers. Re-signed Pascal, re-signed Obi Toppin, signed James Wiseman to a 2-year deal, and then lost Jalen Smith. another year with the same team. Get some connectivity, keep going, keep building. They didn't have a draft pick this year. I think they did trade for a sec. They got Johnny Furphy in the draft in the second, which I think could be good for them. Movement shooter type guy. Well, he's really a stationary shooter right now, but you think he can develop as a movement shooter. And he's like 6'8" or something like that. So getting a tall shooter with Halliburton is probably a good investment as a second round pick. That's super young.
For sure.
So I was a fan of that pick. But yeah, I like that one a lot. Not much really going on over there.
Yeah. And I think it's important that they kept those guys together for another year because, they got hurt end of the year. And obviously Pascal joined. Did he join at the deadline or did he join a little beforehand?
A little bit before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but basically at the deadline. You want to see what the team's going to look like before you do anything too drastic. And you already made a big move going in for an all-star. I think, give yourself an asset check, count up everything you have, see how everyone performs together, and make a move at the end of next year or at the deadline maybe. But I think because you don't want to get caught in the because they did overachieve this year. Let's be honest. You don't want to get caught in like the Blazers realm when you have a star point guard that carries your floor and you overachieve every year, but you're never that great. But also you want to make sure that you give yourself time to know what you have. And I think they're doing it right.
Yeah. And I still don't think they know what they have, right? Like,
yeah,
they had a awesome run last year. I think beating the Knicks in the way they did, like even with the Knicks injuries, really impressive. Like the Bucks, I think they would have lost to the Bucks if Giannis was hurt. Jeff, you also, think the same thing. But I think give it another year. Why rush to try to change things up? Like you've got a good thing going. See what happens in the playoffs next year when the competition's a bit tougher. Then you can kind of see what you're made of a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm cool with kind of keeping things how it's been for Indy.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Clippers next up. Re-signed James Harden 2-year deal. Signed Batum again. Signed Mo Bamba to a 1-year deal. Kevin Porter Jr. 2-year deal. Paul George left and Mason Plumlee left. Big loss in Mason Plumlee there, probably the biggest one. But yeah, interesting to see how they kind of did it. They don't have it listed on here, but Derrick Jones Jr. I know we talked about him earlier. He obviously was added. I don't know why he's not on this list. But yeah, I don't know. I think they're kind of just doing the role player super team with 2 star quality guys and Harden and Kawhi, and just ride it out as the 6th seed until Kawhi retires. It's probably the plan there. I don't really think they're a title contending team, in my opinion, anymore with these.
Stuff. I think this summer it's kind of like it was what it was. Like this team, like it failed. Like the Kawhi PG thing, it failed.
Bad.
And
very bad.
And there's just not much they can do now. There's not really a way for them to get much better and to kind of to reinsert themselves in the contention tier. Last year, they had a really, really, really good middle of the season. Once they kind of got Harden acclimated, they went on that crazy run. Kawhi is playing like 2017 Kawhi. They were rolling through teams.
A lot of people had them as like the mid-season favorite or whatever because they were rolling.
Yeah, they were that good. And things fell apart at the end. Kawhi gets hurt as he always does. Had a shitty playoffs against the Mavs, and now Paul George walks for nothing, and because they didn't want to give him a 4th year on his deal. And yeah, it's just I don't really know what to even say. With the
getting nothing out of that is just embarrassing.
They got nothing, and it's this team was a failure, and this summer is by extension just a failure.
Yeah.
The re-signed James Harden, they gave him too much money, in my opinion.
They didn't really have an option.
Yeah, but 70 million
Yeah.
for 2 years, like you might as well just blow it up. I don't know.
Yeah,
they got that new stadium coming in though. They need to sell seats, man.
They do. Yeah, with all those toilets, what Steve Ballmer always says.
A lot of plumbing you got.
We're gonna have more toilets than any other stadium. All right.
Yeah, so you don't have to wait in line or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to miss the game.
That's so funny.
Just make a good team.
Because there's like TV. Yeah. Why don't you trade away all your picks for not a injury-prone star? Lakers, LeBron 2-year deal. The funniest deal of the offseason. Max Christie 4 years, $32 million.
I didn't watch a lot of Lakers games, to be completely honest. But
he didn't play.
I didn't understand that.
My favorite part of it is when they got announced. Woj quote to it was like, "Has been another developmental success story." He doesn't. He averaged like 4-1 in a 0.5, I think. He played like 8 minutes a game, I think, on average when he did play.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything. And you're committing $8 million. You could have. They should trade him honestly for Pat Connaughton. That'd be a good deal for them. But and they lost Taurean Prince to the Bucks, which he was pretty good for them last year. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not high on this team. Has not done anything from on the outside other than re-sign guys. And they had such glaring holes last year, roster construction wise, and they haven't done anything to patch them. They hired a first-time head coach who I think JJ Redick will be a good coach. I genuinely do. He's a good basketball mind from what we've heard from him, but they're having trouble filling on a coaching staff for him. They're having trouble getting assistants to come onto the staff for video people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You say they're struggling to hire video people?
Yeah. Hit my line.
Shit. Maybe I need to apply for a job down there. Hold up.
I mean, but like that's a concerning trend for a team like the Lakers who is trying to win the championship.
They can't even get players they want to come there. Klay Thompson took less money
to not go to LA.
To not go to LA and to not play with LeBron. It's just a circus over there a little bit.
Did you see why? He said there's a report that said Klay wanted to go to the Mavericks because he felt like it would just be playing for the Warriors again with a star player who's aging out, and the media is constantly on you and they're circling your team and you're always in trade discussions, and that was a report that came out. So
yeah.
There's
a reason. Sorry, go ahead.
I just don't blame anybody who has those feelings either. Why? What has been a positive demeanor around the Lakers in the last 2 years? 3 years, 4 years since they won the championship.
Since ever. LA has the most toxic fan base, and there's a reason why everyone always says it's the worst job in sports to take anytime anybody ever gets hired there.
Yeah. Because
you are under the microscope, and you will always be blamed.
Darvin Ham wasn't that
matter what.
I'm just going to put that out there in this video. Darvin Ham was not that bad of a coach last year. His roster was complete dog shit. Lakers fans completely kept having a problem with him throwing out 3-guard lineups. What do you want him to do? You have no wings. You have no playable big men.
Yeah. What else can you do? I mean, it's just, and I feel like last year they had probably as good of an Anthony Davis season as you could possibly ask for.
Completely healthy, efficient shooting, really good scoring inside the arc, playmaking, and was playing at a depoy level.
And they were still the 8th seed at the end of the year, and they still won just one playoff game.
Yeah.
I think
LeBron shot 40% from 3. Sorry, guys, it's not happening again.
D'Angelo Russell had a really good regular season, and still things just didn't work. I mean, this team is just not that good.
That's why they should I believe they should overpay for Brook Lopez. They need a quality vet like that.
They need to bring
Multiple first-round picks, please.
Yeah. But somehow everybody but who's making decisions in the front office gets flack, and it makes no sense. And it kind of reminds me of when Terry Stotts got fired for the Blazers, and we trade for Norman Powell, right?
Norman Powell, well-known small forward. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, but then he was by far our third best player. So what are you gonna do?
Him starting at the 3 is a crazy.
But he was our best 3, and it's like, and then everyone was like, fire Terry Stotts. It's like, what do you want him to do? Blame who just pigeonholed Terry Stotts. Blame who pigeonholed Darvin Ham, who had no decision but to play 3 guards. It's like, but for some reason, it's the coach's fault. He's got to dig somebody.
Yeah, they got a problem that Taurean Prince is playing minutes. It's like, dude, he's the only playable 3 on the team outside of LeBron. Like, what do you want? What, like, genuinely, who was supposed to be playing over Taurean Prince last year?
According to the money, Christie.
I guess, but he sucks.
I think he can't be good though. I don't want to say.
Yeah, but he hasn't played, and he's been in the league for what, 2 or 3 years now. He hasn't played. You extend him, and you're like, oh, he's gonna be. He doesn't even like. I'm gonna compare this to a guy in the Bucks. Marjan Beauchamp has put on the Bucks. He has barely played. He still has shown more than Christie has, and Bucks fans are ready to just trade him for like 3 second-round picks or 2 second-round picks.
It's so I get that he looks tentative, but I always just like look at his production after games when watching like Bucks fans freak out, and I'm like, it looks like he just made.
Yeah, they're really over dramatic. We're not even getting into that. They're really over dramatic about it.
I always love it. And I know Marjan's not perfect, but
I'm just talking about from a fan, like from a perspective standpoint. It's like,
yeah, he averaged 4, 2, and 1. I'm looking at stats
40%
right
from 3.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever. I mean, I don't know.
But 40% from the field.
The Lakers need to be aggressive with trades. They have already don't have young players. I really like the Connect pickup from the draft. Him falling to 17 is crazy. I'm not mumbling a single word in regards to Bronny James. I'm honestly sick and tired of hearing about. Dude, I will. ESPN notifications, Bleacher Report notifications, real notification. Bronny James, dude, I do not care.
All I'm gonna say is I think he was over mediafied, like way over.
Well, yeah.
Right? Like, so I get it's annoying, but also he was a great prospect. He was someone that was expected to be very good. And his value, a top 10 guy, like a top 10 high school player that drops in the second round, like that's good value for the Lakers. And I would say the same thing if anybody taking them.
I actually don't have a problem with it. I just hate hearing about it nonstop.
Exactly. Yeah. When Bronny James is the face of the NBA Summer League, not Zachary Risache.
Like, stop.
It's just bad marketing, and it's like, I get it. It's LeBron's son, but that they're creating the hate by doing that shit. And it's like, just talk about the journey they went to with his cardiac arrest and him overcoming that and still putting up minutes, and talk about how he can build himself that way like you would and anybody else in his shoes that had that story, right? And I think people would love Bronny James. Yeah. It's just the fact that they're treating him like he's the 3rd overall pick, and that's unfair to him and everybody involved.
Yeah.
All right, Grizzlies. This will be a quick one. No re-signings, no additions, no departures. Drafted Zach Edey and
Jalen Wells, the GOAT. Go Cougs.
Yes. But he got
watching that game right now.
Board. He got pushed crazy up the draft board.
He was weirdly divisive. I've seen a lot of people really like him, and then I've seen a lot of people really dislike his game. So but that's how second round goes. Yeah,
for sure. I like Edey pick. I'm not gonna lie, I like the Edey pick. I think he'll be good for them.
It's grown on me a lot. I feel a lot better about it now than I did on draft night.
If he went to a conducive team that needed a big man, I was much more higher on him. Or if they went to there's 2 situations. I did not want him to go to a team that was trying to figure out the future of their big man position from scratch. Or a competitive team in the mid to late first who's like, we want Edey because he's good, but we already have a guy. I want him to go to a team that was good and actually needed a center right away, or a team that had 0 centers.
Yeah.
Like Washington at 26. But he obviously went top 10. So I think he'll be good for them. I'm interested to see if he's going to start in come regular season, if he's going to come off the bench, what they're going to do there. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. And with the way Memphis is built with Jaren Jackson Jr. and seeing that most of their success came with a Steven Adams at the center, you don't need Edey to be what he was in college.
Yeah.
You need him to be supersized Steven Adams. If he is supersized Steven Adams, that is amazing. That's about as perfect as you can get. And really good rebounder and screener that can protect the rim at times and help jog it open and overcome some of Jaren's weaknesses on both sides of the ball. So I think out of anywhere in the league, that's where you want Edey to go. I think that's the best fit.
Yeah.
For sure. Miami Heat up next. Reese extended Bam. Thomas Bryant 1-year deal, league shattering. Haywood Highsmith 2-year deal. Kevin Love 2-year deal. Didn't give him the minimum. Crazy that they had to pay him $5 million to stay. Alec Burks 1-year deal. Lost Caleb Martin and waived Orlando Robinson. Another team that I'm very nervous about going into next season for where they're going to stand. Also, they have this Jimmy Butler cloud hanging over them for next season. They didn't want to extend him, so he said, I'm not going to even talk to you until next year. We'll talk next season. So that is something to be concerned about if you're Miami, personally.
Yeah. I love the Khalil Ware pick.
Yes.
And I don't really like much else with Miami. It feels like, again, it's like it feels like every other team just kind of has surpassed them, has kind of run by them. I don't think they're a team that can go on another run like we've seen them do. I just think that time has passed. I mean, they've had a lot of injury issues the last couple of years as well. I don't know. I don't really love Miami's outlook right now. And I don't have much else to say except they're just in a tough spot.
Yeah. I mean, bring back Bam. I think it's very important.
Absolutely.
Because with that Jimmy Cloud, you have to have your future. And that's Bam, because he's still young. That's something we need to remember. He's still young, but he's also producing now.
Yeah, and keep Bam as long as possible, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think, again, Khalil Ware was the pick. I think he's the perfect 5 to be next to Bam, or 4, depending how you want to do it. But probably 4 on offense, but a 5 on defense, if we're being honest. But no, they're in a weird spot, and I think a lot of that is they are a team that lacked aggression. Pat Riley, kind of was letting things come to him, and they never came.
Yeah.
He literally had Damian Lillard in his lap.
Begging to go there.
Couldn't capitalize.
Yeah.
Which I think is just absurd.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah. But I do think they're a team that they'll be fine if Jimmy Butler leaves. So I'm not too worried about them, and I think they'll be probably a top 6 seed or around this. They'll be around the 6th seed in my opinion.
You know a team that, like, we were talking about the Bulls earlier, like, I don't know if someone's gonna be able to take on Levine's contract. They should be doing that.
I think they could really use him. Yeah.
He's better than Tyler Hero.
I haven't thought about that, but I do like that.
I was talking about it on Twitter. I mean, he's better than Tyler Hero, just straight up. He is. There's just not really much to say about that. And you are a team that needs another option. To be honest, I mean, you have the infrastructure to deal with defensive woes. Same thing with Brandon Ingram. Like, I bet the Pelicans would love to get a shooter like Duncan Robinson, man. Love to get a shooter. I mean, Levine's $43 million. I mean, that's a lot. But, like, if you're trading away Hero, and you're trading away Duncan Robinson, I mean, that's a pretty good trade package. I mean, especially if there's no one that wants him. Do you even have to give up picks?
They're gonna go for like Khalil Ware or some shit like that, though.
I don't know. I feel like the Bulls have been pretty realistic this offseason with the value of their players.
That's true. But also a question I have is, do you think LaVine is someone that will withstand the Eric Spoelstra
Yeah.
coaching?
I think LaVine gets an deserved amount of question regarding his ethic. I do think he has some problems regarding defense and doing little things, but
he's also been on shit teams his entire career, basically.
But I know it's just like one incident, but I did see the clip today of Zach LaVine, like his coach was getting on him. I can't remember what it was, and he's like, "I got fucking 40 points," like, and like,
that was
Eric Spoelstra is sending you the fuck
was that what was that what that one? Who was their coach before they hired Donovan?
Yes, I think it was beforehand. So like,
dude,
I get that guy was a terrible
that
coach.
Was the funniest Bulls. What is his name? Oh my god, I gotta look this up. Yeah. No, because he's the guy that made them run suicides, and they were like, they had like a team meeting like the day.
Yeah,
but Eric Spoelstra is the coach that's gonna make you run suicides. Is my thing. Like, so I know Eric Spoelstra is gonna have a lot more respect than this guy did in a locker room because it's Eric Spoelstra, but that's
Jim Boylan.
Boylan, yes.
That is one of my. They should have just never hired Fred Hoiberg, to be honest. Underrated coach.
Yeah, I just worry that.
Actually,
Zach
they just should have never fired
soft.
That's what they should have done. Just not fired Thibodeau. Yeah, no, I get that for sure. But I think if the stars that are on the market right now,
he's the best fit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I think they would get a lot better. I think Zach LaVine would make them better than Brandon Ingram would.
I don't even think you need to give up picks, because here's the thing: the Bulls have liked taking on young players that maybe have been good or have had problems. I mean, would you rather have Tyler Hero or Josh Giddey?
Hero.
Yeah,
exactly.
I bet they could get that without giving up Duncan. I bet it'd be if they gave up Jovic instead of Duncan, which I think honestly might be better because there's no promise with what Jovic is doing.
Well, I'm just saying for contract reasons.
Oh,
they're negative 38 million.
Yeah. So. I forget Duncan Robinson got that paycheck.
He makes 19 million.
He makes a good amount. I forgot he got paid that much.
Yeah.
I think that would actually bring them under the second apron technically. I don't even know if they're a second apron team.
Oh, I'm watching the Memphis Summer League game right now, and there was a scuffle.
Nice.
Summer League.
Hell yeah.
Summer League. Love it.
All right. Next up is Milwaukee Bucks. Didn't resign anyone. Brought in Taurean Prince, 1-year deal. DeLon Wright, 1-year deal. Lost Malik Beasley to the Pistons. Drafted AJ Johnson and Tyler Smith.
Best draft pick of the night.
AJ Johnson, yeah. There's a video on Bucks Twitter, if you can find it, of me in a draft space. Like
I've seen first reaction at once when they get the news. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it was rough for me. I like I'll talk about the free agency stuff first. I'm really like the minimum guys that we got. I mean, DeLon Wright as a backup combo guard who is a legit defender makes me excited for that. He can handle the ball, play off ball. He's a really good catch and shoot shooter. Awesome in passing lanes, good POA defender. I think he comes off of the bench for us. And then Taurean Prince is better than Pat Connaughton, and that's all I care about. Because if you are better than him, then our team gets better. Look at all the statistics last year of the guys coming off the bench. As soon as any bench guys checked in, all of our numbers just plummeted. Plus minus our starting five, regardless of Malik Beasley, was still one of the best defenses among 5-man lineups last year. And one of the best offenses of any 5-man lineups. I think that by net rating, I think they were actually the best 5-man lineup with Chris and Dame, Giannis, Brooke, and Malik Beasley. I think it was like the best lineup in the league last year, 5-man, no matter like with minimum 400 minutes or something, which is still a decent amount. As soon as the bench checked in, defense went to absolute hell. Offense went to absolute hell every time. Shout out the mayor, still on my team. You will be gone soon, hopefully. But I like those guys being able to replace minutes of guys who I really wasn't a fan of playing much last season. And they're actual two-way players. Whereas the last year, a lot of the guys that were playing were one-way players. Malik Beasley tried on defense all year, was not very good at it. So hats off to him for trying, but not a POA defender at all.
Not at all.
And then, with the draft, AJ Johnson, not a fan of the pick. I hope he succeeds, obviously. Like, I hope he's good. I see the potential there. I just think if you were going to take a project player, I would have taken a project player that can at least try to play for you right away. I would have been a bigger fan of trying to take a guy. I think they wanted a big man. I think they wanted Ware Holmes. Both of them were gone. Missy was gone. I think those are the guys that they were targeting. They were like, all right, well, we're going to take a swing. I probably would have been more wanting to take a guy like Terrence Shannon, then play the two, be a point of attack defender, athletic, slasher, can shoot.
He can play right away too. Yeah.
So, and then Tyler Smith, big fan of that pick. I think he deserved to get drafted and much higher than he did. I think he was I personally thought that he could go as high as those late teens picks. I know he has some problems, but the potential is there as a 6'9", 6'10" power forward who is like a legit NBA shooter right now. Legit NBA shooter right now. Athletic. I think everything that I've watched about Tyler Smith in this draft season, talk with interviews with him, everything like that, is one thing that I notice is when you watch draft interviews, which is something I wanted to talk about with a lot of guys, they all say the same things. Like, I'm versatile on defense.
Oh my God, I heard versatile so much.
It's like the agent talk. One thing that I noticed when I watched Tyler Smith interviews, and I watched the one on No Ceilings. Shout out to No Ceilings, great YouTube channel. They did a film breakdown with him, and he said, I struggled defensively last year, and I'm trying to be better at this, and this on defense, which I think is something that you don't hear a lot when in the draft process.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciated being able to hear that because he said, I struggled switching last year. I want to get better at that. I struggled with identifying rim protection stuff. I was like, okay, that's awesome to hear. So I think the sky's the limit for Tyler Smith. I think he could play right away as a shooter. I think he's athletic enough to finish around the rim well. I don't really think like his ball handling that much, but realistically, you're playing the power forward position. You really shouldn't be handling the ball that much. So, and I think he's a little bit bigger and he's a little bit bulkier, but I was saying that he kind of reminds me of how Jaden McDaniels was in the draft, where he fell because, believe it or not, look at Jaden McDaniels' scouting report. They did not think he could play defense in the NBA. They said that he was not good enough IQ-wise because he only played zone in college and he was too offensive orientated. If you can believe anything from those scouting reports about how he plays in the NBA. So I just don't think playing for a G League Ignite team that had that many problems, it should be conducive to what you think he's going to be in the NBA.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I think I like investing in a big to be the backup 4, maybe small ball, maybe a 5 for some spot minutes.
I think he's one of the perfect players to have at the backup 4 when you have the small ball 5 Giannis, because he gives you the Brooks spacing.
Yeah.
But without the defense, so it's like you got to worry about that. But then you have Giannis's rim protection that you're relying on at that point.
Yeah.
So, and I think he can play the fast break at Giannis's a similar pace to Giannis. So I shouldn't say at Giannis's pace, but lengthy, athletic guy that stretches the floor, that likes to run in the fast break. It's a great fit.
And I think the biggest thing with the Bucks this season is going to be a conducive season with an off season with their full roster of their main stars, full off season with their star players and with a coach as well.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have a coach hired until August, beginning of August, I think. No, right before free agency.
So it's like just about right now.
Yeah, right. Like just like about a week ago would have been when they hired Adrian Griffin, and he was obviously a horrible coach. I'm not too excited about Doc Rivers, but the staff that he's put together is like crazy good. There's a ton of old head coaches that are no longer head coaches, and there's a ton of high level assistants. They fired Giannis as shooting coach, thank God. So hopefully he can shoot a free throw the correct way again. But yeah, I think that's be the biggest thing. And then hopefully with the Bucks, Dame is in shape and ready to go at the beginning of next season, and he has everything situated with his living capacity and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I think people writing off this Bucks team are kind of silly for doing so. I see people say that they are not a top 4 team in the East, which is crazy to me personally. You have Giannis and you have Dame and you have Chris Middleton, who is still a very good player. And when you have guys like that, you're gonna win games at the end of the day. It's just how it works in basketball.
Yeah.
As bad the bench should be one of the worst in the league, and you're still gonna do that. All right.
Yeah.
Next team, Timberwolves. Luka Garza re-signed 2-year deal. PJ Dozier and Joe Ingles 1-year deals. Lost Kyle Anderson. Lost Jordan McLaughlin. Lost Wendell Moore Jr. Lost Monte Morris. Drafted Rob Dillingham. Trade up in the draft.
Great move.
And then drafted Terrence Shannon as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I can start with this team. Obviously, I don't think the Wolves got better or really worse. I think that they addressed some areas of need.
Yeah.
And it kind of came at the cost of some other things, but I just think that that trade-off is worth it.
Yeah.
Losing Kyle Anderson, Wolves fans really did not like Kyle Anderson this season. He had a rough season. But losing him he's still a good player. I mean, he was in your playoff rotation. That's value that's hard to recreate. Monte Morris leaving, whatever. McLaughlin leaving, whatever. Losing those free agents, I think does hurt you a little bit. But that's kind of the reality for second apron teams, is that it's just going to be hard to keep your guys who aren't who aren't starters. It's just difficult to do that, and you have to really dive deep into the luxury tax to keep those guys around. But I think Tim Connolly and the front office over here really did a good job at seeing something in the draft and being aggressive and making it happen. I think if you watch the Dallas series, it was just super obvious that they needed more guys who can just get a bucket when the team's offense got stale, and that's been a problem for years with this team and its offense. It's like, other than Edwards and D'Lo a little bit and Towns sometimes, there's not a lot of guys who you can give the ball to and be like, we need offense right now. Please go create something. Ant at 22 years old is completely overburdened with that. And I think it was really smart from the front office to go look in the draft and be like, Rob Dillingham is the best advantage creator on the ball right now in the draft. We're just going to go get him. We're going to give up a 20-31 swap to get him. Even if that comes back to bite us, we're going to be aggressive now because we know we have a window right now. And I think Rob Dillingham, obviously there are things to be concerned about, like 6'1", 6'2", 170 pounds. Like, those measurements aren't great. He's gonna be very, 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 very bad on defense, at least for his first few seasons. If not for anything else than just being tiny. Like, he's gonna be a small guard. But listen, I think if there's any team that can cover up for a bad defender, it's the Wolves with their length. Like, they have such a great defensive infrastructure right now to protect guys like Dillingham from really being exposed time and time over. So adding that scoring and that creation ability to the team off the bench, which, hey, Tim Connolly said that he's going to play from day one, which I think is awesome. You know, it's a lot of pressure to put on a rookie, but like the Timberwolves need him. They need his skill set. And I think that, like, I think he's just going to give them instant offense. I really do. And I think he's an underrated playmaker as well. Like Kentucky, he didn't get to show a lot of that, but like his passing film at Kentucky is really impressive. Being able to make like the corner skip pass or just kind of run the point guard, which is also interesting because if that really hits, you found your Mike Conley replacement, right? So I really like that move from Minnesota, obviously. And then also Terrence Shannon at 27, like that's a guy who's also going to give you instant offense. Right? They need more guys who can create. They need guys who can just get a bucket. Terrence Shannon can do that, and he has more size, can defend probably a little bit more as well.
Yeah. And I think Dillingham gives another pace that a Mike Conley-led offense doesn't have.
Yeah.
So, and I think Anthony Edwards is the type of player that necessarily doesn't like to play slow, and he's learned how to play. He can play both, obviously, but he's so athletic that getting him out in space, him and Rob, is going to be very dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Even with McDaniels running the fast break as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think Mike Conley's one of the best vets in the league. Who better to, like, there's not a lot of better mentors in the league just to have Rob Dillingham learn how to, control his pace at times and learn how to make reads and play like a point guard.
Absolutely. And I think like, yeah, I mean, you're completely right. The way this team is built is not built to Ant strengths. It's not. Like if you really wanted to build the Ant strengths on offense, you'd have a team that could play 5 out, a team that would get out in transition. And the fact that Ant is still able to do what he does in this team is super impressive. But they need more guys. They need more guys who can run with him and do a lot of that stuff. And I think, I really like the Rob move. And they also brought in Joe Ingles off a minimum, who did not have a good season in Orlando, but is a guy that can shoot, a guy that can pass, a guy who's played with Rudy, can kind of, do a lot of that 2-man game stuff with him. So I think as at a minimum contract, like that's really good value to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have much else to say. I think they did what they could, and I think they made the most out of their situation being in the second apron. I wasn't expecting a big cat trade or a big blow up. Like that is just not realistic after the run they had, and I think they did good for themselves.
I agree. I think the Timberwolves are going to be one of the top teams in the West, and I think a lot of people are going to have OKC or them as the favorite, I would say, going into the year. Favorite to come out top in the West, not to win the finals. Yeah. I still think Boston is the favorite. Favorite.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. All right. Sorry, I got my page lost. Pelicans next. Didn't re-sign anyone. Daniel Tice, 1-year deal, starting center. Shout out to him. DeJounte Murray acquired. Dyson Daniels, EJ Liddell, Najee Marshall, Larry Nance Jr., Jonas, and Cody Zeller all lost. And then they drafted Yves Missi in the first. I really, like I was talking about earlier, really like the DeJounte Murray move. I like getting an offensive-minded point guard who can still match that two-way identity that they like to have, and create offense for them late in games from the perimeter, which I think they've actually had a lot of problems with. It's because Brandon Ingram is just not a 3-point creator. No. At the end of the day, he's a mid-range guy. And Zion's definitely not creating jump shots for you. So I really do like that move. I think it's interesting. I think, getting a guy like that for what you did is good value. So I say take your shot, especially when you are looking to retool and possibly trade Ingram. So Yeah, I do think the center spot's a real problem for them. I think they should be calling any team that has any sort of playable big men that they want to move, even if they're not like true centers, because I think if Zion has an injury, or one of your centers has an injury, your rotation gets really nasty really fast.
Yeah.
Really fast. So
100%.
I would be looking to move anyone that possible.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Murray fit in a way. I think another pro is it allows CJ McCollum to not have to overhaul what his offensive role is. I think when they played these mediocre point guards, he had to take on a ball handling role that he shouldn't be, and I think it allows DeJounte Murray to continue to play make with him. But losing Valanciunas went to the Wizards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Losing Valanciunas to the Wizards is kind of crazy, and they didn't find a replacement. I don't know. Their roster is just weird, dude.
Yeah. I don't know how to feel about the Pelicans. I think DeJounte is a good fit for the team, but I think I'd like it a bit more if they made another move.
Yeah.
One of my worries about them is just the spacing in that starting lineup. DeJounte Murray is a guy who gets a lot of his shots in the mid-range, or is a guy who's looking to get to the mid-range.
Mm-hmm.
CJ McCollum can make threes and shoots them, but I think he excels in the mid-range. Brandon Ingram, like I've talked about it a ton, he really only shoots mid-range shots. And if Zion's not giving you spacing and whoever they play at center isn't giving you spacing either, I just worry a little bit about their three-point volume as a team. And they've got, Trey Murphy and Herb Jones off the bench who will get up threes for them. But in that starting unit, I'm just a little bit unsure. And yeah, their center position, like what are they going to do at center? Legitimately, like is Missy coming in starting day one? Because that doesn't seem like a great idea to me.
He's like raw.
Yeah, and Larry Nance is a guy who I've liked as a small ball center for them in the past, but they traded him. I don't really know what they're gonna do at center, and like, are you doing Zion? Like Zion at center can work for tiny spurts, but you aren't starting the game with Z at your 5.
No, especially now with how basketball is trending with everyone's going back to bigger centers because they have to try to defend the Joel Embiids, the Jokic's, the Victor Wembanyama's.
It's tough. I don't know who starts at center for them.
Nobody.
Personally, they should trade Herbert Jones for Brook Lopez.
I just think maybe maybe they're going the OKC route in a way of, I know Chet's taller and he's a better defensive center when you're talking about it, but he's more of a true 4, and they might just go 5 out, true 4.
Yeah, just embrace it and let Zion cook. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. But then defensively, there's so many holes in that roster.
Yeah, I do think that one way they could fix a lot of these issues is trading Ingram, and I almost kind of would have preferred if they just gave Ingram up in the DeJounte deal a little bit. Because
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, just because I just think if you trade Ingram for DeJounte straight up, I think it simplifies so much more for that team as far as who starts and how they want to play. And you don't have to worry about, Ingram's contract or finding another destination for him, because the Hawks fit made a lot of sense to me. And now it's like, I feel like the Ingram for like Jarrett Allen thing would be perfect, but that's kind of seems like it's not a thing that's on the table anymore. I don't really know. I think I'm a little bit worried about the Pelicans, even though I do think that the DeJounte trade is going to work out for them. It's going to be good. They've got some question marks kind of elsewhere that I'm not sure about.
No, I agree. I think, and thinking of centers other than Jarrett Allen that I could even imagine getting traded, DeAndre Ayton,
Robert Williams.
Will.
Like DeAndre Ayton can shoot some middies. He'll get some space in there, and he can rebound. So like, yeah, he'd be a good fit, honestly, I think. But I don't know.
I've got a guy.
You got a guy. Oh man.
Oh, do I have a man for you?
But I think also they're going to be stuck in a thing where they have obvious holes in their roster, but they're too good to lose and pick up things to fill the gaps in drafts. You know what I mean? I feel like they've glued themselves to mediocrity in this offseason.
Yeah. For sure.
Knicks re-signed OG Anunoby 5 years, like $200 million. Acquire Mikal Bridges, Keita Bates-Diop, lost Bojan, Alec Burks, Diakite, Hartenstein, Shake Milton. And then in the draft, they got Kolek in the second. They drafted Pacome Dedier, and then they took Keyshawn George.
I love.
Wait, no, they drafted Keyshawn. No, wait, they traded him to the
Wizards.
Yeah.
Never mind. Great pick by the Wizards.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah. I don't know. I think they're going all in on this season in a very unique way. I understand why they made the moves they do. I think they are one of the top. They'll be in the top 4 teams in the East. But I think if there's some role player regression when it comes to Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, anything like that, if those guys have down years, I think you're going to have some real problems. And also that big man rotation, non-existent right now.
Losing Hartenstein is rough, man. And with Mitchell Robinson's injury history, where he's going to be hurt a lot, really every season, it gets a little bit questionable. Yeah, but I think Mikal Bridges, it's a lot to give up for Mikal Bridges. Don't get me wrong, but they're going all in. They're getting a guy that they've wanted and that, you know, is one of the best friends of three of their most important players, right? I think. Yeah. And I'm thinking about Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby as like your 2 wing defenders and how that could just wreak havoc on opposing teams. Like they're going to be a really good defensive team, and they've also got good offensive players in Brunson. Julius Randle is still on the team. People have kind of forgotten about him because he got hurt, but he's still on the team. He's still really good.
And Mikal's a great third option.
Mikal is great. Yeah.
I think people have kind of been blinded to how offensively talented Mikal is just because he's not a one option. And the Brooklyn Nets were trying to put a square in a circle. Mm-hmm. I think there's a chance that him and Randle have similar outputs as the 2/3 options. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. Yeah. Yep. And you've still got OG, Dante DiVincenzo, Deuce McBride, who they kept. It's like they're going to be a really good team. And I'll let you go in a second, Matthias. But one of the things I do worry about with this team a little bit, and not like they don't have the superstar that a lot of these other teams do. If they play Boston in the playoffs, they aren't going to have the best player. That'll be Tatum. Jaylen Brown can even be better than Brunson on days. Against Milwaukee, obviously they're like they don't have Giannis, and against Philly, they aren't going to have Embiid. They're never going to have the best player in any of the series that they do play against those other big dogs, and it didn't really hurt them last year. But I think I'm high on Milwaukee, man. I think that duo of Dame and Giannis, like if they're healthy in the playoffs, it's going to be hard for me to comfortably pick a team like the Knicks over them, even though I love the Knicks.
I can agree with that, but I also think Jalen Brunson's like what, top 20 guy. He's so, I mean, maybe not overall, but offensively, he's so talented. And we've seen him perform in the playoffs so well. Like, obviously, he's not a Giannis. He's not a Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
But I think putting 2 just elite defenders who can also be an offensive threat next to him, along with some of the really, really good role players, and then the offensive talent of Julius Randle can help overpower the top heaviness of that roster. Because
for sure,
when I know like this doesn't really apply to Boston, but when a lot of the top teams in the East, when their Giannis is out, when Giannis and Dame are out, like Jeff was saying, they're fucked. That, like, you know what I mean? And when that's going on, the Knicks are like, oh, well, we got these guys who we have full faith in, who everyone's bought in, and they can produce. You know what I mean? They have depth and they have cohesiveness. And I know like play style wise down the roster doesn't necessarily fit, but they kind of give me roster construction wise, they kind of give me Boston vibes in terms of they're gonna run a short rotation, but it's gonna be a mixed match, versatile. I know I just said I hate that word, but versatile rotation where many people are playing different positions and you're staggering minutes all over the place, but you're not losing depth when Jalen Brunson's out or Julius Randle's out. And I think that's very key when you're trying to overcome not having a superstar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I do think they have some currents. And that's why I said at the beginning, I think role player regression will be the determining factor on the ceiling of this team next year. You know?
Yep.
How those role players are playing are going to determine everything. I mean, Josh Hart last playoff run was like a sniper.
He had some insane shooting performances that like you can't bank on that happening again.
Exactly. But overall I like the team. I think it's very interesting to see where they go. It's crazy how much money they're paying to those to OG Anunoby right off the bat.
So much.
But I mean, we'll see how it works out. Thunder re-sign Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins, great contracts for those guys. Acquired Alex Caruso and acquired Isaiah Hartenstein, and then lost Josh Giddey and Lindy Waters III. Number one seed in the West gets better. They fixed their number one issue, which was bench big, and a rebounding guy that they can put out there at the 5 with Chet at the 4, and then they shore up 2 role player guys and for 5-year deals, 5 and a 4-year deal, and they don't give up any picks for one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. So.
The rich get richer. That's what they say. The rich get richer.
Yeah. Very upsetting for me because I just don't understand what the Bulls were thinking in that trade at all still, as we talked about earlier. But, we'll roll with it. I do like the deal. Hartenstein's contract is structured like perfectly front-loaded a ton before they have to pay Shea a super max and Chet gets a max and all those guys get maxes. So, I like it. And, they'll be able to keep making moves if anything is problematic for them next year. So not much to talk about with that, to be honest. And then draft-wise, they took Topic at 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dylan Jones, yeah. Which is a good.
Two oversized guards.
Yep, and then they drafted AJ Mitchell at the top of the second, also oversized guards.
Yeah. I do really like all those guys, though. I was really high on. I know Topic had the injury and the weird thing, so I get his stock lowered. But I think Dylan Jones, I liked him coming to the draft, and I really like AJ Mitchell's game as well. So they have a lot of candidates for that solidified bench guard that they're looking for. They got Cason Wallace and the 3 rookies now. So I don't know. I think they'll find it. Knowing their history, I don't know. That A plus. I don't know. You're the 1 seed, and like we said, they got better. You can't ask for anything more from them.
Yeah. Magic are up next. Resign Goga Badazzi, Gary Harris, Jonathan Isaac, Franz Wagner extension, and Mo Wagner extension. KCP 3-year, $66 million deal. Lost Joe Ingles. Fixed one of their main holes, which was a consistent 3-point shooter and floor spacer in the starting lineup. Still matches their defensive identity. Really like that. And then they drafted Tristan da Silva in the first, which is a really good pickup for them. Plays that wing role, connective kind of piece, do it all, shooting guy. So big fan of that pickup personally.
Yeah, I think the Magic definitely had a good, off season for what they had. They had cap space. They used it on KCP, who, like what you said, Jeff, it just fits in so well. He gives them something they need, which is 3-point shooting, and he can fit in that defensive identity that they found so much success with last season. Like, they put up a hell of a fight in the first round against Cleveland, almost won, and you think about Paolo coming back even better. You think about Jalen Suggs kind of continuing to build off of his success from last year. Franz Wagner just got paid, and he's going to keep on doing what he does. Like, this is and Jonathan Isaac. They got Jonathan Isaac on a bargain of a deal. Seriously,
Yeah.
like for what he gives you, they got him on a very, very team friendly contract long term. And yeah, I think Orlando is going to continue to be in the mix next year like they were last year. This is a team that's just on the up and up. I'm glad they didn't make too aggressive of a move this early on. Like, they've got time. Their guys are still young. Continue to see what you have. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. I like what Orlando did a lot.
Yeah. And I think that they can do more, and I think they will do more. I know Anthony Simons has been talked about a lot.
Yeah.
But again, they're not at the point where OKC is, where you need to buy in on a veteran and try to win. You know what I mean? They overachieved. They look like they have their young cornerstone. They look like they have their young second option already. They know their weakness for now, and I think they are just building around the edges and trying to keep your core is kind of like Indiana. You know what I mean? I know they didn't struggle with injury like Indiana did, but just look at your assets, build around, let the guys develop, and see if they themselves can cover the holes before you go and maybe sell out some of the guys that make the team so successful.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Sixers, max the extension. Oubre brought back 2-year deal. Added Drummond, Paul George, Eric Gordon, Caleb Martin, Nicholas Batum lost, Mo Bamba lost, Buddy Hield lost, Anthony Melton lost. In one of the biggest, most interesting teams, I'm still questioning how good this team is really going to fit together. I think the front court depth is still very questionable, even with Drummond coming in.
Yeah.
And Paul George is a very good player, but he'll be better than Tobias Harris. That's what I can say about that.
Yeah, I think the Paul George is a good pickup.
Yeah, that's also the biggest win of the offseason for them, is that they have Tobias Harris off the books, right?
Yeah.
That 40.
Imagine Paul George just regresses like horribly next season and is just like just as bad as Sixers fans might lose it.
That would be a very Philly thing to happen. Like that. Yeah, it would. Yeah.
Drafted Jerry McCain. I think that was great.
Yeah, definitely.
I like McCain a lot for them.
Yeah, I think Philly's going to be really good next year. I think that they needed, I think, an upgrade like Paul George. They brought in a lot of other guys who I think will help them a lot. Drummond, McCain, Kelly Oubre is back. Other guys that I'm forgetting already, but yeah, it's just the time to win around Embiid is right now, and they're trying to do that. That's not much else.
Committed.
They're committed.
And I think they can compete, and it just matters how Embiid's health is, because we even saw it this year. He can dominate in the playoffs when hurt.
Yeah.
So I just want to see that man healthy. That's
yeah.
all. But I don't think there's much other to say than they got Tobias Harris off. That's the main thing they wanted. Paul George fits well, and you hope that they can compete with this roster, because on paper, they are good.
They are good.
Yeah. Sorry. Phoenix Suns, Bol 1-year deal. Damian Lee 1-year deal. Royce O'Neal 4-year deal. Crazy overpay for Royce O'Neal in big 2024. It was like $28 million, I think. Maybe more. Was it like 50 million?
I don't remember what
it was a
but
lot.
I remember it being an overpay.
Monte Morris, Mason Plumlee 1-year deal. Lost Eubanks and Eric Gordon. Drafted Oso Iguodaro in the second round, and then Ryan Dunn in the first. So still have all the same problems they had last year.
Exactly. It's just refurbished.
I think they did pretty good for what they had. I mean, getting Monte Morris is pretty decent pickup.
Yeah, I don't think they did themselves any damage.
No, I think they're in a really tough spot, and I think they just got to do what they can. I don't know. It seems like the front office, or it doesn't seem like they told us the front office and ownership, they're doubling down on this group. Matt Ishbia thinks they can win a championship. I don't agree. I don't agree with that.
No.
Yeah, man, Phoenix. I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah. I'm not much to say.
I think they're going to be still stuck in mediocrity. I don't think they have what it takes to be a contender. And I think they're a team, though, that while regular season, they'll be like, 6 seed-ish, maybe a little higher, depending on how they, blend together. But I think they're a team that can make a run for the Western Conference Finals if they get hot. They have this star power, but
I feel like if they draw all the right matchups, it can happen. But I think if you play Minnesota again, you're done. You play Memphis.
Yeah.
You play Memphis. I think they don't beat Memphis. OKC. I think OKC goes through them.
Yeah.
Denver.
You would have to hope that one of those teams gets upset, and you just get super hot, I guess, and you make a Western Conference Finals run. But I don't think anybody should be betting on those guys to win the title preseason.
No.
I don't even think they're not in contender status at all.
Mm-mm.
No. They're playing status, personally, actually.
Yeah, I think they're borderline playing. I think I want to give them similar grace to what I'm giving the Bucks, even though I know the Bucks were a lot better. But, give a whole season and a whole offseason of having all those guys together, and maybe Beal is healthier because I know Beal is dealing with some back stuff, but
yeah,
I still don't see it. I think borderline playing playoff team and can maybe make a run.
Yeah.
And that's not enough for having Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal on your roster.
No.
Yeah. Next up, Matthias's favorite team to think about, the Portland Trailblazers. No re-signings. Added Denny Avia via trade. Sipped out Malcolm Brogdon. Drafted Donovan Clingan. Did you guys draft anyone in the second?
I don't believe so. I think we traded our draft rights away.
Yep. Also, Iguodaro was traded. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I have no idea. I don't even know what to think. This is by far the team that I've paid the most attention to and thought about the most, and I have gone nowhere. I can't even wrap my head around it because I know that they loved Clingan and he was number 1 on their big board. So I get that the perceived value at that pick is amazing, and they're super happy for it. But I also think, I don't know. I don't think it's a needle mover, and I think that there's still a lot of worries. And you already have DeAndre Ayton, and I get the next draft. There's a lot of forwards coming in, so maybe they don't want to waste that spot. And we were talking a little bit pre-pod that they have a lot of people to play.
A ton
of people to play, and a ton of people to play that aren't very good but kind of show some promise, or they aren't very good right now but they show a lot of promise. Mm-hmm. And Clingan is someone that is more of a win now guy, and I guess my worry is Clingan might get wasted on this roster you know?
Yeah, that's kind of my worry too, especially with the other big men they have. Like Ayton, he's gonna play. Robert Williams, if he's healthy, like you aren't just gonna not play him. Like I don't think there's not like Klingon isn't coming in and he's the he's the center. That's not how it is with this team. And their guards, they've got a ton of guards. They've got like a ton of young wings that need to play to develop. And yeah, I don't think anybody knows what to think about this team other than the fact that they'll probably be 15th or 14th in the West, and hope for lottery luck.
Yeah, and I think from what I've seen, how they're advertising Klingon and how the Joe Carter has talked about him, I think they're really high on Klingon's ability to shoot the ball, and I'm like, come on.
You can't bet on that, man. Come on.
Like, I don't think Klingon's gonna be a stretch ever anytime in his career. He's not gonna be a Brook Lopez. I think Klingon's more of gonna be a pre-injury Yusuf Nurkic for us. You know what I mean? A huge human being that's gonna block shots. I think he's gonna be a better defender than Nurk. But he's a huge guy that's gonna block shots, get rebounds. He's gonna be able to play with the ball in his hands and play make at the top of the key. But I don't love him being a go-to post scorer as of now. He can shoot top of the key threes on pick and pop, sure. But teams are going to leave him open. So it's like, okay, if he punishes teams at like 30%, is that really worth it? Like, I don't know. I guess we are running on the same exact hamster wheel that we ran on in the Dame era right now. And I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, it's really kind of just questionable what's going on. I don't know. Enjoy another season of just kind of bad hoops a little bit. Maybe Shaedon, Shaedon's going to have performances. Scoot, hopefully he has more, but
we just need some consistency from those two, because I also think, sorry to cut you off, one last thing.
No, it's all good.
We've pigeonholed ourselves with the guard play where Anthony is our best guard and we should move off of him. I don't think he's a long-term number one guard. And unless some crazy shit happens with forwards, we're not going to have a go-to forward either, right? And we have to decide who we're trading. And Scoot's been injured, Shaedon's been injured, and they've shown some flashes, but there hasn't been consistency from either of those guys. And then it's like, I think it's making it hard to make a decision to let go of Anthony, because you're like, there's no promise these guys are going to be better than him. And I know the NBA loves to play on potential, but trading your most consistent guard for two injury-prone young guys that haven't had a consistent stretch at all in their career is super alarming for me as a fan. And just as a basketball, like just thinking basketball-wise, I'm like, we need to see something, because especially in the first half of the season before the deadline, because then I think if Scoot shows out and has a consistent first half of the year, or even Shaedon has a consistent first half of the year, right? We can confidently get rid of Anthony Simons and not feel like we're doomed to a decade of terrible.
Yeah.
Because right now, that's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling like, it's Cooper Flag or bust.
You never know. I think you'll need lottery luck. I mean, that's how every team is in the rebuilding. But
true.
Yeah. All right, I think we've got 5 teams to go.
Yeah.
Like that.
Kings, Alex Len, Mike Monk back, sign trade DeMar, and then drafted Devin Carter. We don't really need to talk about. Lost Harrison Barnes, Duarte.
Signed Isaac Jones. Go Cougs.
Oh yeah, it's all drafted.
Hey, Jordan McLaughlin too. Don't
yeah. They're signing him to shore up their quality veteran backup point guard minutes. Tweet from Woj was legendary. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. What? Like I don't know.
DeMar's fit is questionable, but the talent upgrade is so large between him and Harrison Barnes that you do it 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Excited to see what happens with them next year. I think that they can catapult out of that play-in into a playoff team. I do think they need to invest in some defensive role players instead of keep targeting these offensive guys. And I think getting another quality big man would also go pretty far away if possible. But every team needs a big, so really not much you can do there.
I kind of think this team is going to be awesome a little bit. I don't know. I think this is going to be one of my bold predictions coming into the year, but I think the Kings could be a top 4 seed. Not saying they're going to be, but I think they could be. I think this team has talent, and we saw 2 years ago when they were the 3 seed that, you know, if they get healthy, and they were super healthy that year, but if they just get healthy, I think they can be a good regular season team. I think DeMar DeRozan helps them a lot. Like, yeah, the fit is questionable. Maybe you want somebody who can defend a bit more. Maybe you want somebody who will shoot more threes, but like the talent upgrade is what it is. I mean, you gave up Chris Duarte, who sucks. Just going to say it. And then you give up a pick swap in 2031. That doesn't really matter now. You give up 2 seconds for DeMar DeRozan, somebody who I don't think is that far off from his All-NBA season 2 years ago. It just kind of feels like that because he's playing on the Bulls. Like I think DeMar DeRozan just gives them a lot more. He gives them a guy who outside of Fox you can just kind of let cook. I think DeMar is going to play super well off Domantas Sabonis. I think DeMar gives them another option late in games. I think DeMar is a great vet. He's a smart player. Like, I just think this team offensively is going to be very dangerous. Defensively is where there's a lot to be concerned about. Keon Ellis is going to be your lead point of attack defender in that starting lineup, and that is not great. That is just not great, and I worry about that. Like, if their defense really sucks, then it's like, yeah, I don't think this team can do anything. But if their defense can be like 20th or like 18th, and their offense is as good as what I think it can be, which is like top 6, top 5, I think they're going to be a really good team. So that's just one of my bold predictions, is that the Kings are going to be good. They're going to be really, really good.
Yeah, and I don't think DeRozan's going to be a spacing issue for them as much with Mike Brown as a coach. And I think Fox has made a jump as a jump shooter. Malik Monk is a good jump shooter. Murray, obviously. Sabonis can stretch with middies. I know people still don't believe. For some reason, there's this notion that you have to shoot threes to stretch the floor. But the way Sabonis plays, he stretches the floor.
He adds spacing for sure.
Yeah, he'll pull it out with the ball handling at the top of the key. No, I really like the Kings, and I think they did everything they needed to do. And I get the question mark a little bit with the DeRozan fit, but I think they'll be good. I agree. I agree with you. I think I would hop on the train that they're going to. I don't want to say overachieve, but
they're going to be
from the standard, they're going to overachieve than many people expect.
Yeah.
What's next?
Spurs didn't resign anyone. Got Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul. Traded Devontae Graham away. Drafted
Stephon Castle.
Who?
Yeah.
Ooh, that summer league game looked nice.
Stephon Castle, demon.
Yeah,
dude, he's gonna be good.
I can't believe he was my number one player.
I think we were all. I mean, Matthias, I don't know about you, but I was also super high on Castle in pre-draft. Just watching him, I'm like, this guy could go number 1, and I wouldn't even be mad at it, dude.
No.
I think I would have had him as my highest guard if I were to actually do a full mock like myself. I'm trying to think of other one big. Like I was actually pretty low on Dillingham compared to the standard. I feel like,
which I get. Yeah.
I feel like 8 is about where I would have had him, maybe a little lower. But Topic, obviously, he came in and he's struggling. But Castle, he just has this pace to him. And he looks so comfortable in that summer league game. And I think the Spurs are going to be a playing team.
I like that, and I think they could be too. And to kind of stay on Castle for a second, like, other than the 3-point shooting, which looked good in summer league after just one game, he has everything else. He can play multiple positions. He can defend multiple positions. He can pass. He's got great feel for the game. He's a great, just hard worker. Like, he's going to be able to play next to Wembanyama in that Spurs infrastructure. He's going to be able to learn from Chris Paul his first few years at least. Like,
I think that's key as well.
That's super key. I think Castle is going to be great, and Chris Paul, amazing fit. I think this is where Chris Paul is best suited in the last year or two of his career, is like being with a young team and helping them learn, helping them grow. I like this a lot more than I like him with a Golden State or a Lakers who are trying to win when they really aren't going to win no matter what. I like this a lot. Harrison Barnes does a similar thing. Just is a vet, a pro, just comes in and will help him out, can help win games, but also be like an example, a mentor. And Wembanyama, he's already so good, and he's going to come in next season and just be on a completely different level than we saw him last year.
Yeah, and I think Harrison Barnes is an underrated pickup for them. I think he will probably start.
I think so.
If I'm going off of talent, I'd honestly have him start at that Keldon Johnson spot.
Or Keldon. I get that.
I think he can do what Keldon does better right now, and I think the Spurs, I don't think they're gonna have some rough up and downs like they did this year. But I think adding Chris Paul and adding Harrison Barnes those are two player types that is consistency, and that's what they need. And like you said with Vic, we're seeing some of these Olympic highlights and these games he's putting up.
Hell,
alarming.
Dude, it's scary. I need. That's why I need the Wolves to be moved out east. Bad, dude. I don't want this demon in my conference, bro.
Oh,
get me to the east.
One lottery number away. Damian Lillard would still be on my roster.
Everything we said about how Portland is like, you don't feel great about it.
Oh my God, the Celtics would still be ass.
Dude, no Drew. But I think the Spurs are doing it right. I think a lot of people are saying they want them to buy in and compete now, but I don't think there's any rush. And I know Victor's going to be good. And I'm not saying wait like 6 years, but I think you got a couple years.
Yeah.
I think they're at about where I'd say Orlando is. In terms of, I think
feel that
they're like, in terms of when they should make the decisions. I think you should sit on the team for a year or a year and a half. See what you got. See how these young guys develop. You have your cornerstone. You might have the whole league cornerstone. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
To see if Stephon Castle can fill some gaps before you go and trade for a guard. You know what I mean? Or see if some of these guys can take some steps because they're young. And Vic looks like he's gotten bigger. Vic looks like he takes care of his body. He takes care of his everything.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, and one last thing about the Spurs too is like, getting those 2031 pick swaps from Sacramento and Minnesota. No guarantee that those completely hit, but like that's a smart plan to get to under this new CBA to be able to get guys for cheap, like get talent for cheap in the middle of Vic's prime like that. It's a good strategy.
Agreed.
Yeah. Raptors next up. Scotty Barnes extension, Quickly extension, Garrett Temple 1-year deal. Got Davion Mitchell and Vezenkov. Vezenkov, I'm pretty sure, is getting waived or bought out or something like that. To go back overseas. Trade away Jalen McDaniels. They drafted, I forget who we drafted. Jacoby Walter. So
I like Jacoby Walter's fit with them.
Yeah, and take a swing on a 3-and-D wing guy and hope it works out. They still have a long way to go in the roster building, but I like where they're at.
Yeah.
And their first year of last year they were horrible, but they didn't have their pick. This will be the first year of their actual rebuild, so that'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, I think they might have a Quickly contract. I'm like,
Don't worry, man. He's better than Zach LaVine.
I hated that.
Yeah, I love Quickly. I love Quickly, but it's a lot of money. But I think he can step into that money, and I think you got to pay Scotty Barnes that contract. So,
yeah,
I think they did what they need to do. They got to suck, and I think next year's a perfect year to suck. So,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Jazz are next up. No re-signings. Added Eubanks on a 2-year deal. Lost Chris Dunn. Lost Omar Yurtseven waived. Drafted Cody Williams and Isaiah Collier and Kyle Filipowski. I was a Collier at 29, crazy value for me. I would have been comfortable taking him in the late lottery personally.
Same.
I wish the Bucks would have taken Collier instead of AJ Johnson if you were going to draft a point guard.
Yeah.
But you know what? Whatever. I guess. I mean, can't really fault just them. The entire 28 other teams passed on him.
Yeah.
Teams. So yeah, not much to say there, but and now they're looking to move Lowry and Walker Kessler finally. I saw a report from like an hour or two ago.
Weird.
That Kessler, they only want like a first rounder.
Why do they want to trade him?
I don't know.
I don't really know why. I think like he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't really believe that they're actually trying to trade him. But.
No, they're just testing the waters probably to see if they can get some people to
But
overpay for him.
They should move Lowry.
Yep, they should.
If there's this much of a bidding war. Not good enough player.
Yeah, that's fair. He's not good enough to really hold on. He's not cornerstone. And you want to sell high because this is about as high as his value is going to be.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever be higher. And there's desperate teams that are calling right now.
Yeah.
Like the Warriors are very desperate.
And knowing how the league works, the Great White Hope, he's going to Utah. So they got to clear that. They got to clear that power forward position.
Yeah, that's fine. That was funny. And then last team, Wizards, Rashawn Holmes 2-year deal, acquired Malcolm Brogdon and Jonas Valanciunas. Hilarious. Sent away Denny and Landry Shamet was waived. Drafted Alex Sarr, Kaishan George, and Bob Carrington.
What a draft.
Love their draft, man. They, I think, to me, are one of the winners of the whole draft.
I think they had the best draft. I can't.
Yeah. I agree. Bob Carrington is going to be
that dude is nasty, man.
Yeah. And Alex Sarr is probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Keyshawn George is going to be good, dude. Like,
other than trading Denny, which I don't think they really had any reason to do. I like their offseason. They're getting more and more young talent, more of a young core together. And you add that to Jordan Poole, you add that to Bilal Coulibaly, you add that to the other wings, Corey Kispert, Kuzma, who maybe he actually sticks around. He seems to like DC enough, and they haven't traded him yet, so makes me kind of think that he could be in the team for longer. Valanciunas, I completely get bringing in to play at the 5 next to Sarr. I think they could still make more moves. Tyus Jones, I think, is he a free agent?
I don't know.
I don't really know. But they hired a new coach. I don't really remember his name. But I'm kind of into it for Washington. It's going to be another tanking year, another developing year. Again, love their drafts, and yeah.
I think this year, like obviously they're going to be tanking. They're going to suck, and they're doing it on purpose. But this is a lot more of a developmental year than last year.
Yeah,
because last year they had Bilal as a developmental piece. I think Jordan Poole is who Jordan Poole is going to be, and I think he's still pretty underrated. I still have belief in him.
Better year than he did last year. I really do think that. Like, it would be hard for him to have as bad of a year as he did in 2024.
Yeah, and I think them trading Denny just shows that how much they believe in Bilal.
Yeah,
that's what I think that is. I think it means Bilal's their guy, and I think they need to make room for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or they either really like Keyshawn George, and he's going to come in and play some minutes off the bench probably, and the rotation, they feel confident in that. Or they just love Bub. I think there's a lot of ways that Denny's good, and I'm very happy he's on the Blazers, but
yeah, they've got other guys who can kind of.
I've seen a lot of rumors this summer that Bilal is like turning some heads in the Wizards.
Looking
like,
great. Yeah, for sure.
Been looking really good.
He's looked good in overseas for France. Yeah, I'm excited for the Wizards. I think they've taken every right step after firing every single person in the organization.
Blazers need to fire every single person in the organization. Oh my god! I'm sorry. I don't understand.
You're good, bro.
I could go on a rant about the whole get rid of a toxic GM just to hire this stinking predecessor who was part of the same camp. Why would we think that we're not going to do the same exact thing if we just hire the guy that worked for the guy?
Keep believing, my man. Keep believing. All right, well, that wraps up all 30 teams. I think we went pretty in depth about every team, to be honest.
Dude, 2 hours 20 minutes. Like we did it.
We cooked it up.
It's been a while since we talked basketball. Feels good.
Yeah. Hopefully all of our schedules stabilize, which we say every single episode.
It's hard with school and working and
yeah, exactly. So what I appreciate anyone who has made it all the way through this video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Check out all of our socials down below. And check out this channel for more videos. We'll probably be talking Olympic basketball, international competition, Olympics, more off-season stuff, and all that good stuff that we usually up to.
Yeah. I'll be at Summer League, so hopefully I can.
Yeah, well, that'll be good. That'll be awesome. Yeah. All right, well, peace out, everyone. Appreciate you watching.
Yeah.
Have a good night. Bye.
Yeah. Peace out.
Peace.